Introduction to goal setting. Imagination is the key. An army of peers gives the camera a hearty thumbs up with a caption, "We are achievers." That's how everyone wants to update their Instagram after a hard-fought win. Can you believe I made the Dean's List? The new scholar reports on his Facebook. This project could never have gotten done without the massive contributions from our guest of honor. You. You are an achiever. And you will get noticed, and you will glow silently as your character gets an upgrade. This is the purpose of these lessons. Everyday aspirations do come true. Ask any seasoned professor, and they will reflect on students' grades that rose from rags to riches. Entrepreneurs have converted their messes into a message. Pastors have seen the most seasoned victim become tomorrow's hero. And to get started on this road takes one little step: imagination. Any person who has accomplished anything worth noting will say it all started with a tiny thought that grew into a larger thought. And that thought set fire to their imagination. Just as George Bernard Shaw once said, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last, you create what you will. Imagination is always the first step. Think about it. Every note of music, every piece of architecture, every world record was first imagined months, often years, before becoming a reality. The good news is that we all have a powerful imagination. Our imagination will always stretch us to be the hero of the story. It makes us the star in the play. And these thoughts can develop us into being a straight A science major or an accomplished author. Unfortunately, our imagination can also, and far too often, fuel fear. It can and usually does visualize the worst of any circumstance while making a case for why you should be discouraged. Being consistently late, always barely passing tests, or worse, are activities reinforced by a negative imagination. Now, personally, I've walked into a midterm with the anticipation of not doing well and totally lived up to that expectation. An imagination that leans on negative expectations can keep the most talented person in second place. Think about that. The most successful, awesome, has everything going for them and just misses it by that much. Programming your imagination, your thoughts, can also be mechanically and systematically accomplished. An inspirational spark can come from an encouraging manager, or a coach can passionately paint a vision of achieving. A story from a movie can touch you so deeply you are moved to action. These positive sparks can ignite an imagination, and as I've claimed, we all have a very keen imagination. For some of us, it gets dusty. Now, how you use your imagination now becomes a choice, not a chore. Here's an exercise I do with groups of people, and it just starts off like this. Imagine being in a lion's cage. 3 large cats tower over you, anticipating your next command. Their large eyes peer in between a bushy mane and a brick-thick muzzle. You stand with broad shoulders before them. Now, look at your right hand. You are holding a whip. You see a hard leather handle reining in a card-length tail. Now crack the whip on the ground and see the dust rise up from the ashes. As you look down, you also realize you're wearing your Sunday's best clothes. Now your shoes are done well, your hair is done fantastic, and then your cell phone starts to be buzzing in your left pocket. Who could be calling me now? Well, you shuffle through your pocket with your free hand to get a good firm grip and bring the phone into view. You cannot believe who's calling you. And then you say this name with excitement. Who's calling you? How do they react to your voice? Are they excited? Dismissive? Now, do they need information? Or possibly, could it be a wrong number? Now, how does the phone call bother the middle lion? And where will you be heading out looking so dashing? Think hard or think soft or think quick on all those answers, and you start seeing how your imagination starts putting pieces together, creating something I call an imagined you. That is the whole beginning of working out towards being a great goal-getter. Now, I start off many workshops asking my students to imagine good and crazy things about themselves. With the little coaxing, a mother of three can imagine she's a skilled Latin dancer. A husband with a 60-hour work week can imagine going motorcycling along the Great Lakes for a month. However, I can always count on a few people with crossed arms to look at me and claim they don't have an imagination. Now, this is nonsense. If I get a 5-year-old child and a blank piece of paper and I give them a crayon, they will use their imagination to draw a picture. What 5-year-old child? Every 5-year-old child in the universe will draw something from their imagination. With direction, you can ask them to draw a picture of their dad fighting a dragon, or their mom flying through the air, or themselves riding a T-Rex. The problem is that sometimes between 5 years old and this afternoon, people let their imagination fall behind a wall of mental scrutiny. Culture has a way of doing that sometimes. They may think that their imagination is silly, or at the very least, uncomfortable to utilize. I promise you, imagination is the key, not only the key, it's the main ingredient to being a goal-getter. Everyone has a fully functioning imagination, and it is functioning enough to imagine you hitting a goal, teeny tiny or super large. That must be why one of the greatest minds in science declared that imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world. That's a quote from Albert Einstein. If you properly set a goal, you have created an imaginary you that is in possession of a treasure and a better character. The crux of this primer is to demonstrate to you, the student, that getting from where you are standing to the imagined you is not only doable, but is especially doable by you. The first part of this book will be mostly dedicated to defining terms of goal setting. It may seem tedious, but it is necessary to ensure that, we are all on the same page when we get to applying the simple goal-getting life model. Let's define a goal. Let's start at square one. Merriam-Webster defines a goal as the end towards which effort is directed. And I'm going to add the tiny word time as a parameter. So the end towards which effort is directed to a simple time frame. This will be labeled as a simple goal. A simple goal is an idea or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan, and commit to achieve in a finite amount of time. Under this broad definition, picking out the right socks can be considered a goal because you're trying to get ready for work. However, setting up this workshop to handle these trivia matters wouldn't be a good use of our time. So we're going to add just a little bit more. Addressing our responsibilities or our routine chores would make a bleak weekend workshop if all we did was pick out socks and hairstyles. Instead, we'll focus on the much more challenging concept of a goal-getter. A goal-getter, we will define a goal-getter as any worthwhile activity or result being completed by a specific time frame that changes the integrity, the core knowledge, and or attitude of a person or group. The goal then can be almost any result and can be getting to work 15 minutes early, tripling the sales numbers of your department, or even getting enough sleep in a week. The part that transforms an activity to a goal-getting activity is a set time frame. And more importantly, growth in a person's character. Once again, picking out a pair of socks may be an activity, but it is not a goal-getting activity because no changes in the character of the person has occurred. And on a more vigorous scale, hear me out, a person may work 10-hour shifts for a month, but will not be accomplishing a goal. A student handing in their homework on time, no matter how hard it may be, is simply fulfilling the responsibility. A goal-getter would take a chore, an activity, or a responsibility and use it as a tool to change themselves. They will change themselves internally because a specific result is emotionally desired and needs to be done within a set time frame. To achieve a goal in this book, we are focused on changing ourselves. We aim to shape our values. We aim to reflect a stronger character while keeping our eyes on the prize, no matter how large or small that prize is. A day and night change in attitude is not necessary, and just for me saying it, it's not necessary, it's also completely impossible. We don't have to emerge from a proverbial cocoon everywhere we turn. No, a good goal will only yield a 3 to 5% maturity in our thoughts and character at a time. I mean, just think about it. If someone's trying to get ahead at work and they're kind of late all the time, coming in early, though it may be a struggle, a challenge, a monumental problem in their life, when they accomplish that internally of being 15 minutes early, emotionally, that's only a little bit piece of their day. They still got to brush their teeth. They still got to do the reports. They still got to make things happen and keep harmony in the office. Now, let's get that imagination going again. What would your life look like after 5 years with the 3 to 5% personal growth per quarter? Working 10-hour shifts would not be a goal. It may, however, be part of the plan to achieve a goal. The goal could be become a licensed architect in 4 years while staying debt-free. Working 10-hour shifts on the weekend would then be part of your plan. Therefore, the goal of being a debt-free architect require 10-hour shifts on the weekend. It may require studying during lunch. It may require cutting out social events for a time. But each item by itself is, at best, a chore. But these activities working together can become the plan that will positively change your character forever as this goal is achieved. A debt-free architect at graduation. In my book, The Goal Getter, a story that teaches how to become one, Noemi spent about 4 months imagining success in her company with very little results. She knew what she wanted, but didn't quite know how to get there or how long she would take. However, change happened quickly when she confessed to Teresa what results she needed and how long she had to achieve it. Teresa offered her mentorship based on this information. And a short 6 months later, everything her imagination came to pass and a lot more. I promise you that every goal you hit, you will receive many more rewards than the goal you pursued. I can personally testify to that. So why did Noemi's goal come together so quickly? Her mentorship with Teresa, as we will study later in this book, started shaping her treasure chest key. And in the next section, we're going to look at treasure chests, the key, and you.